Donnie Glover Show. Be more.
Top of the morning to you. First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Come on, we just pop on live, huh? How you doing, man?
We're going straight for the jugular. There she is, the queen. How are you, Dr. Draper?
Good morning, Mr. Glover. Since we're doing titles. Hey, Cheryl.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Hi, Impeccable.
Good morning.
You're in Texas?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Oh.
I haven't been to Texas since Christmas time, but I'm in Baltimore. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were coming here.
Well, I am, but not right now.
I'd love to see you.
I'll call you. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Are you coming to DC for the Black
Yes,
Press Week?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Kevin, it's truly a pleasure to be with these ladies. What do you think?
Absolutely. We live already, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Good morning, fam.
Hey, Vonnya, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm well.
So, Dr. Draper, you being the matriarch here when it comes to Black media, tragic loss. Joy Reid is no longer on air. You have Donald Trump running all kinds of games on the American people. Thank God for Black media, huh?
Absolutely. But it's always been a thank God for Black media.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of who's been who the occupant of the White House, it's always been thank God for Black media.
Cheryl, is the fight any different in Texas?
You know, every day I get up fighting. I go to bed fighting. I try to do something to take my mind off of the fight, because if not, I'll keep fighting in my sleep. And so I try to do something. But, you know, this is Texas. You know, our governor wants to go to the White House, and he is of the same ilk as your president. And so we're having a tough fight. I talked to elected officials here, and interesting, the whole theme is that while the Democrats are slow to take care of business, and they act like, I can't think of any other thing to say than they act like punks. Well, the Republicans are doing the same thing, because many of them don't agree with what's going on, but you know, they are letting it go on. So that's why we're the laughing stock of the world.
Dr. Vonnya, any thoughts?
We're in a peculiar time right now, but we're prepared. We're prepared for such a time as this.
Well, and you say that, Doc, you know, and we say, but how are we preparing our young people? Because we're living in a time when the grandparents are more educated, even though Black women are the most educated demographic. But we're living in a time where we have people who have degrees telling their children that, oh, college isn't for everyone. And in the same time, so we're not realizing where they got that from, and we're telling our kids don't need to take a gap year. They need to be in and on, because in 30 years, they are going, our great grands or whatever, going to be going before some of the most incompetent judges that have ever sat on a bench. And they aren't going to be prepared to deal with it. And we're already seeing a little of that, because we've seen a little of, I was watching a show yesterday where I don't know what the alphabets are, because I say they aren't doing that for us anyway, but I think she said she was a millennial, and she was talking about how they weren't prepared to fight that we're fighting or that we will be commemorating in Selma. And we're like, we made it too good for them. We made them too comfortable. So they aren't ready. They don't like to take chances. And that's a blanket statement because then you have a group over here that will take chances, that don't get caught up in their feelings all the time, and they are ready to fight.
That's
So,
right.
so we have to do something to prepare those who aren't prepared and get more of us prepared because there's some idiots who got in benches. If there was one thing I wanted um, Biden to do, I want him to find every bench that was open and fill them all. That's the only way he could equalize some of the things, minimize the damage that Trump is going to do with his appointments.
So, Cheryl, to respond to you, I work very deeply in schools. Through our media company, we have an education arm, and we partner with both Baltimore City Public Schools, Prince George's County Public Schools, and now Baltimore County Public Schools as well. And this is a different time. This is a different generation. They learn differently. And, you know, us being a media firm who uses media as the medium to reach them, we have some incredible partners that are doing some very innovative ways in which we are preparing our young people. And it was really interesting. You used the word prepare because literally the name of one of the programs a colleague and I have partnered up with and launched is called the Prepared Professional. And so we are working with young people in middle school. I'm talking getting fifth graders certifications. So while they're getting their traditional learning, they're getting certifications in those areas of interest to them at a middle school and a high school level, so that when they come out, they have more than a high school diploma. And by introducing certifications at such a younger age, it's piquing their interest in a different way so that they can matriculate through graduation. And we don't see as big of a tapering off of dropouts and that sort of thing. So I think across all generations, there's always been that dynamic of the first adapters, those that get it immediately, those that take a little bit longer, you know, and then those that are kind of reactive and they're responding to the circumstance that, you know, we're in. And unfortunately, we're seeing that right now. I mean, there are some who got it before, you know, we're visionaries. You know, there's some of us that have discernment. We see it ahead of time, and we've read this playbook. You know, it looked different, but we know how to navigate and tread these waters, quite honestly, you know. So
let me get a word in here, Dr.
Such a time as this.
Kevin, when you think of the spirituality of Black people, when you think of our faith in God, when you think of, in many cases, our Christian base, our Christian background, growing up in the church, reading the word, at any point, do you think God is forsaking us as a people?
Good morning, everybody. Absolutely not. I think we forsake him more than he forsakes us. I think that you let a little wave or a little ripple in the water get you to not even leaning on what you believe in or what you thought you believed in. And you go strictly the opposite way instead of going strictly to him or strictly to prayer or strictly to a relationship, your relationship that you have with him and what you've learned along the way. And so things are going to happen, and the weak are going to get bounced around anyway, not because of their lack of knowledge. So I think at that point is when right now is the time you got to dig deep, because everything that's happening is a spiritual warfare. Everything that's happening, it's the news. Every second, it's just a bunch of confusion. And if you don't have a place, that's why the Black media is so important, to come and say, okay, where is the real truth? And what has been the truth for our community for hundreds of years? you're gonna be extra lost because you don't know who you don't know what you already shaking on your spiritual walk. And I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying the majority of even Christians I talk to. I don't want to hear about. I don't even want to say his name today. I don't want to hear about it every day because I don't want to wake up to it. I don't want to go to sleep to it. You know what I mean? I want to wake up to saying, good morning, God. What you got planned for me today? Who am I going to impact today? And opposed to all of the news. Did you hear what so-and-so said? Did you hear what they did? It just gets in your, like the young people say, it messes your vibe up. I guess the vibe, actually we started the word vibe, but anyway, it messes my vibe up. So if anybody on here is like me, now it's time to, and I can't tell people what to believe. I just know that I'm anchored in Jesus Christ. Since you asked the question, I didn't know you was going to ask it like I was the bishop today, but since you asked that question, like media, from my point of view, I think now is the time more to trust more in God and trust more in community because, we have to care about ourselves and not care about what people think. Our kids now, if you say they're weird or they're something, they internalize that so heavy. I'm like, if I call you a duck, are you a duck? You sure you're not a duck? This person called you weird, and you're in arms. You're upset about what somebody said to or about you. So I think now it's time, spiritually, Donnie, to lean now more than ever. I was looking back before we got on, and I'm gonna yield my time back, but from the 60s to 70s, the Afro-American newspaper, which is the oldest Black newspaper in the DMV, started in 1892 for those who might be watching from other parts of the country. The key things that we were talking about between 1960 and 70 was civil rights movement, Vietnam War correspondence, the assassination of prominent leaders during that time, the urban unrest and riots, which is the unrest is back again. But also we were talking about the cultural renaissance of what our people were doing positively too. So it was a balance of the news because it has to be a balance or everybody will have a mental breakdown, especially the weaker in our community.
Dr. Draper, when now help me out. John Murphy was your great-great-grandfather?
Just one great.
Great-grandfather. He
probably was a great man, but he's just one.
What is the family's understanding of the times when the Afro was first started, how it and why it came about?
Yeah, let me say this first, that there's nothing new under the sun. Let's remember this. This current attack, if you will, is not new. We've seen this before. So a young person said to me just recently, you all, when I say that's everybody on this call, anybody that's over 30, you have the strategy, we have the energy. Can you help us channel our energy with your strategy, with your knowledge? We're in this thing together. Let me say that first of all. But in 1892, reportedly, less than 2% of the Black population could read. Yet this man who had been enslaved, fought in the Civil War, was 52 years old, which was old in 1890, and had 10 children, had the audacity to start a Black newspaper. That's what it was, a one-sheeter, 3 cents, that said, this is what's happening in this church, this is what's happening in this organization, this is who's in town, and these are the people that we ought to support politically. All that kind of stuff was on one page. It was a little teeny type and those types of things. So I'm encouraged by his story. He had $200 in venture capital borrowed from my great-grandmother, or invested by my great-grandmother, so he could buy. The name Afro was already in existence. He bought the name and a printing press at an auction. So I know that that's part of the story, but it was, it was time. There weren't any major advertisers there, right? But there were people who wanted, just like today, the Black news, and they wanted it from Black media. We're not a newspaper anymore. Shirley's not a newspaper. Vonnya is not a newspaper. She never was, but we are a media company. We are tech companies. We are IT companies. Doni, you're not a news. We are news gathering organizations. The methods have changed, but the content really hasn't changed. We are still about uplifting our people, celebrating their successes, and advocating for all of our futures, regardless of age, in a variety of ways. And we can afford to. We can use this show today to talk all about Black news, right? Black media. Cheryl can use her 2 publications down in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
The Metro News and the Garland
Journal.
the Garland Journal down there in Texas. She can talk all about her community. She doesn't have to, mix it up. Vonnya can do what she's doing and continue to work with the young people in the other parts of media. So we can do what we're doing because this is what we are made to do. When I say made to do, we as Black people are made to uplift each other. Our medium happens to be media. That's right. So you talked about preachers earlier. You got the pulpit that people use. You've got our business opportunities, but the Black press and what happens with Black media too often. Doni Glover, I don't care whether you started 30 years ago, Vonnya, whether you started 5 years ago, Cheryl, whether you started 25 years ago, whether you started like we did 133 years ago. People take the Black media for granted.
Yeah.
And a few, I'm not talking about folk that write Black news. I'm talking about Black owned, Black operated, Black you cannot buy for a price media. And there are only 200 and maybe 25, Cheryl, maybe 225 or so Black newspapers in the entire country.
Right.
And so wherever you are listening from, so this brother's been faithful over what he's been doing. For how many years, Doni Glover? How long have you?
Be More News, 23 years this year.
23 years.
Yeah.
A graduate of Morgan State's School of Global Journalism. Right. Got a lot of street cred. I can say to people, support the Black press wherever you are. Yes. And don't say, well, I can't find it. Let me tell you where to go. Go to nnpa.org and click on members and you'll see a list. Go by state. Click on your state and be intentional about supporting, because you do know in this time that the media is under attack. It's just a matter of time before, and we already feel it. We already feel it when folk code. We're pulling back DEI that says, maybe I won't advertise, maybe I won't support, maybe I won't sponsor. We're just asking you to subscribe, to follow us on social, to comment. And you talked about Joy Reid, and I'm going to be finished in about 10 seconds. We posted the support for Joy Reid on our Facebook page. The nasty, hateful, racist comments that we are constantly now removing are mind-blowing, but a lot of them are trolls.
Wow.
So I'm just saying we can't be afraid to speak truth to power, yes, but truth to those who need to be empowered. I'm done, Doni Glover. Don't get me started.
It's like, how much time do we have? Because we could talk about this all day, and it would combat what we're hearing out in the street. And I want to comment on that, on the whole Joy Reid thing, because we need for us to become as conscious of those in front of the camera, as conscious as we are of those who are behind the camera, because I didn't hear all of this when Rashida Jones left MSNBC and she was the president. I didn't hear all of the chatter that I heard with Joy when Kim Godwin left ABC News and she was the president. And you look at who took their place and you look at what's going on with the whole DEI and everything that's going on. You look at the changes that media organizations are doing. I love being free. And I will tell you that I love everywhere, even when I was a young child, when my father had a bus company and he would take us down from New Jersey to Florida to visit our grandparents. And every city he stopped, I was looking for the Black newspaper as a young kid because I wanted to know what Black people were doing where they were. If you saw the look on my face when I walked into the convention center and saw all these stacks of the Afro when we were there for Delta Sigma Theta's a centennial, to see that paper there. And I guess for me, sometimes, I feel like, where is the love for the Black press? Because we are here when no one else is here for us. I get the calls when folks get in trouble, especially elected officials. Oh, they will call. They don't have any money or anything, time for conversations, some of them. But then when they get in trouble, they know where to go and they find us then.
Vonnya, Dr. Pettigrew.
I was having a conversation with another colleague, Black member of the press media, and they shared some of Cheryl's sentiments. They said respectfully, it's unfortunate that when rejected by mainstream or then we're looking for whatever it is, the Black business, you all know I produce a show called Root Ranch Marketplace, shop local, shop small. I've been saying that all day. Then as soon as some of our bigger box brands change their view on some things, then everyone's now looking for where could I go to shop? And I'm like, hey, tune back into the show. Shop local,
Yes.
shop small. I have seasons of episodes where I'm interviewing small businesses and taking you to their manufacturing plant and showing you how they're making their shea butter and and all of these sorts of things. So I may be the youngest on the line, so I need some guidance, because I get very frustrated because I know that I have a lot of innovation, a lot of fresh ideas, and like I said, even stepping out there producing Marketplace, which gives a bit of a QVC style production featuring local businesses. But it's tooth and nail trying to get sponsorship for the show or folks to buy ad time and this sort of thing, because they're like, well, what are the numbers, what are the views? And I'm like, well, the whole point of this is these businesses exist in communities where you maybe don't have a bank, but you will like their business. So run an ad. This is an opportunity to do something in a more grassroots way, organic way, to really circulate our dollars. And again, like I said, there's the first adapters and then there's those that come along, but we're in a season right now where people are very reactive right now, and then they want to exercise their spending power. And now with what's happened with Joy, with their viewing power, people turn the TVs off, and they're turning their face to Black media. And so, maybe that is it. Maybe that is part of God's strategy, create the crisis so that they can see what's been right in front of them all along.
Kevin, when I first went into business, I said to my dad, Daddy, I ain't getting no business. He said, son, you got to beat your drum. I went back to him a couple of weeks later, said, Daddy, I'm beating my drum. I'm still not getting no business. He said, you got to beat your drum harder. In terms of, Dr. Pettigrew mentioned traditional advertising. How has the Afro adapted to this digital world where people are picking up their phone more so than newspapers?
Well, first of all, this is just a point of reference. It's not, this is not bragging rights. We've had a .com for 35 years. So we've been digital for a very, very, very long time. We are not a newspaper. I keep telling you, we're a media company. And so we have, more than 500,000 followers on social media. So we are constant. Let me say this.
750,000.
Yep. Adaptation to technology is ongoing in any business, and especially in the media business. So what you think is avant-garde and cutting edge today is outdated by this afternoon.
Mhm.
So when people say to me, well, what are you doing technology wise? Yes, we and Impeccable can answer some of that. Let me tell you something since you asked specifically. Let me tell you some of the things that we're doing, but recognize that we're looking for the next, right? So we use AI tools all the time. They're tools. Technology, it's tools. If you don't have any content, I don't care how many tools you have, you're just going to be putting garbage out, right? So yes, we use AI. We have a digital billboard network. You may have seen these screens. They're in, is it 100 locations? Impeccable, how many locations is it? I might be exaggerating. How many locations?
30.
30. Okay, see,
But it's going to be 100.
It's going to be 100.
Yes,
So
it is.
30
I see it. I feel it.
30 locations, like where people wait, like
Yes.
restaurants, barbershops, fitness places, right? You may see it. It looks like a regular television screen, but our content, it's there. These are our Afro screens. So the apron, the bottom part, has our website and all of that. We're running our content. We're running our news, and that's sponsored by certain people. So if you go into a restaurant while you're waiting to pick up your carryout, and there's a screen right there, you may see all this Black news coming. That's news that we are providing through that network. All right. So we're doing that. We're on every platform. I don't need to run them down. Y'all know the platforms. The platforms are here today, gone tomorrow, because we don't own those platforms, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Hey, shout out to my friend Tyrone Taborn for what he's doing on the tech side. So that's there. We're constantly posting. We're digital first. And then, Cheryl, you know this, we're part of a digital startup called Word in Black as well. So we're doing a lot of things digitally. We've redone our website recently. And so we like to say that we're not just tech savvy, Donnie Glover, that this is Impeccable's word, that we're tech sexy.
Come on, Texas.
All right. Okay. And I love it. I get the emails, I get the text messages, and I've told people sometimes you don't have to give money to help us make money.
That's right. Just subscribe. Look, we have free newsletters. Three free, I can't even say that, newsletters. Our latest newsletter is called The Afro Table. And the Afro Table is about dining, and reviewing restaurants that are either Black owned or Black friendly. Okay, Black owned or Black friendly. And so that is our newest newsletter. We have a FaithWorks newsletter that's very, very popular. And then I'm flooding folks' emails with the 7 things to know that you're getting. And it's constantly changing. So that's all I'm saying is we're in constant. So what we're trying to do, and what other Black media is doing across the country, is getting access to tools that allow us to innovate, recognizing that it is an ongoing, constant thing. I want to reiterate what Cheryl said. We need your support, though. Go to afro.com. It doesn't cost to sign up for a newsletter. Right? But we want you to subscribe as well. So I think until Friday, you can get your digital edition for $30 for an entire year. Come on, y'all. We just wasted $30 and it's just 9 something in the morning here.
Yeah.
Let me jump back into the drum.
Jump into the drum, Impeccable.
Now, as we get tech sexy, as you should, as you update your I'm talking about to all Black media, all Black business right now. You have to be tech sexy. Now, my question would be, if all of us right here just started a platform outside of these others that we're streaming on now, because if they wake up tomorrow and decide to say, hey, we're shutting all of your pages down, Black people.
Yes.
What we going to do? They're not shutting the internet down. So we have to have a place and a space on this web that you're going to come to. Because if I ask you, I said, okay, let's go to blackmedia.com. And that's where all the Black media, that's our new channel. Who's coming? So that becomes the question. Now, do I have to put a lot of silly things on it? Do we have to dance all day? Do we have to TikTok all over the place to get you to come? Or are you coming because you believe in the Black media? And so maybe my question becomes to the Black media, are we really beating it? What's the drum? You know what I mean? And who have we told about? Because we will share a stupid video in 5 seconds. But if you're going to say, hey, this is the place where all the blacks are going to because they possibly are going to shut out, they're trying to shut our voice down. That's the reason we started in the beginning, because they're not going to tell our stories. They're not going to tell about our businesses, about our triumphs, and they're not going to inform our community about our medical issues or things that can really affect us. They are going to just keep doing this smoke and mirrors. They're going to try to, even in sports, they're going to just try to, hey, let them just be entertainers. Keep entertaining over here while we run in the world. You gotta wake up right now and say, we have to separate off of these platforms, because we built these platforms and brought all of our friends that they don't even let all of our friends see a message. If I died today and Doni put it on Be More News and he has 10,000 people following him, 300 might see it. So not only did you use me to get my information, are you using my data to make money? You restrict my people from seeing my messages.
Well, and see, think about what the black press, when I take liberties with things, like I like using courtesy titles, because we know there was a time when if we made it into a so-called mainstream publication, a doctor could have 10 degrees and they would not call the black man doctor. And, and I look at what I'm trying to do for people, and I try to tailor some things looking at the audience. Like there are places where I go where I know those older people are going to pick up the newspaper. And then the younger ones, I try to have something different for them. You have to meet people where they are, because some will say, what is that? Y'all still print? And I got an award the other night, and Russell Maryland, some of the football players people like football may know, and he was talking about, he talked about a beta tape. And so his daughters were there, and he explained to them what that was. So when I went up there, I took a newspaper up there. I said, this is a newspaper. And you talk about, what you're doing and how constantly, and I teach on a collegiate level, and I stay in the classroom because I learn as much being in there trying to teach them. But I happen to scroll at my phone today, and I'm looking at, I was trying to do a story, trying to see how I can make this story relevant, because this brother, this is his 50th year being the voice of Florida A&M University's band. And I just happened to be scrolling today, and I see there's the Capital Outlook, and this has to be from 19, I want to say either 80 or 81. And I wrote this story. This is the byline on there is mine. And he posted it during Black History Month. And I'm just saying, we tell that stories that we now have to go back and get it. And I can just update this story. But we tell the stories. Roberta Flack died. I don't know. I didn't see it on television. I saw it on social media. It's going to be in my paper. Interestingly, though, last week, I wrote about Jerry Butler, who I absolutely loved. And the youngest may not know who that was, but but I wrote about him. And then I said, who with some other duets that I like, and I named Marvin and Tammy, and Teddy and Stephanie, and I named Roberta and Donny Hathaway. And then this comes up, and I just think about how we need to cross, while they're teaching me about Kendrick and Florilla, or the different people, I'm teaching them about folks. And there was a young lady in my office yesterday, and I had the music playing, and she said, who is that? And it was the person was singing Ebony Eyes. So, and Peck, I don't know if you know who that is. Doc, I don't know if you know who that is.
I know the song.
Hey, back up, Cheryl. Yeah. Look, we're gonna talk about Ebony Eyes. If I don't know
when
who
she
it is.
said it, and so guess what I did? I went on social media and I said a 30-year-old, 30 something is in my office, and she wants to know who this person is that sings Ebony Eyes. And I responded and I put ellipses. And so then people started responding. And somebody said because Rick James was made a lot of noise when he said, I'm Rick James, and another word after that. But I said, so I did not say that to her because I don't use that word. But it's just so it gave me a chance. So I started putting on other songs. And so then she said, who's that white woman? And she was talking about Tina Marie. Yeah, but just like we want to tell them about people from that or even before our time, we have to find out who they're listening to. We have to engage them. And so it's a constant changing and changing with the times and trying to understand. And sometimes I'm just like shaking my head, but I can think that probably my mom was shaking her head and but she shook the belt a lot more. So some things there was a balance there. And so, I is when I think about how strong the black press can be and is, I think about the legs that we gave to the Million Man March or any telling our history and putting things into perspective that no one else cares about. I don't expect to go to my daily paper this week and see anything about Roberta Flack or Jerry Butler. But guess what? I expect to see it from us. And that puts an awesome responsibility on us to try to cover it all because there's so much, we have so much more access to information. So how do we balance it and how do we re-energize ourselves? And my mind comes from all of you. It comes from the work that you do. And I say, if they can do it, I can do it too. I have to do everything I can to keep them going. So when I get the newsletter, I'm on there clicking things. No, I can't go to that event, but let me click. Let me let them get those clicks and that time spent and those numbers that will help them to grow. And that's what we have to be intentional about. And I think that we really need to call on those who have those huge microphones and get them to speak and to say something about it. When Barack Obama was running for president, Senator Obama, he was at the National Association of Black Journalists convention, a room, 5, 6, 7,000 people in there. And I asked him about his commitment to the black press. Now, what his answer, I gave it to him and he did what he did to Jackie Robinson, or you think about all those greats. He knocked it out the ballpark. Did he honor that commitment? But during that time, he did answer and he shouted out to black papers in Chicago and everything. And that's what we need more of these folks getting up here talking about because they're on the cover of People or they're in Vogue and everything like that. They need to be intentional and we need to hold them accountable and say they have to tell people to support us.
We'd like to welcome to the discussion Doug Blacksher. He does a show on our network all the way from Oakland. Doug, unmute yourself. What is the significance of black media in Oakland?
First off, I'd like to say thank you for welcoming me on the show today. All these beautiful people who I'm sharing this platform with. And as it relates to what your question was, black media is the backbone of how we move forward. As we all know, the white media portrays us as old English drinking, weed smoking, hanging out on the corner, rappers, and music producers, athletes, but not intelligent, articulate black people who are doctors, lawyers, and accountants. Once Bill Cosby's show was disgraced because of what they alleged that he had done, because he was just trying to take ownership in a mass media company. The media, two things. That's how Trump was elected. He got a billionaire to spend $250 million to to trick people of color. Now those same people of color are going back to Mexico. So those same people of color are being identified as all we are DEI recipients and not as intelligent people who should be holding the positions we have across this country and in this world. So if we lose Black media, we lose a lot. Black people specifically. If I've been on disability for the last year and a half, but one thing I say on the Black Business Roundtable, the biggest thing is if we can see it, we can be it. And white people don't want us to see it. They let a few of us slither through the door, but the media, as what you present, Donnie Glover, and I'm honored to have been working with you over the last 3 years. I'm honored that you have a platform that expresses and give Black people a way to express what we need to do, how we are being portrayed, and the successfulness of what media can be for our people. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Vonnya, how do we reach a generation? You know, Khalil Gibran has a poem, The Prophet. He said, your children are not your children, that we are the bows and they are the arrows, that they're going to a place that we will never go to. How do we reach this new generation of Black readers, of black people with media?
I mean, it's part what we do at Root Ranch. We bring it to them into their schools. You know, we come in as their enrichment partners. So where students would typically have their choice of going to gym, music, art. They can take filmmaking, photography, documentary style, media arts with one of my 40 instructors at their school. You know, we're coming in, we're creating programming out of school time, after school, holiday breaks, winter breaks, summer, right? We've expanded the program in our education program to reach young adults, and young adults is defined depending on what the organization or the agency is, can be as old as 29, you know? So what does that look like? I mean, those of you all who obviously know my story, I'm the woman who bought the block on the harbor. So I own a 14,400 square foot property that houses my media studios and our classrooms. So this affords me the opportunity to, one, control our narrative, but also create learning space in our building for young adults to take courses in the evenings, multiple nights a week, for workforce development. You know, we're currently taking our program on the track under the Maryland State Education Commission to become a career training school. So that certification process takes about a year or so, but I got time. I'm on the block. So they'll come along and we'll build it out. And what's so beautiful about it is we've created our own ecosystem. So I'm training them up while they're in K-12 or giving them workforce development opportunity when they're young adult. And because I own a prominent media company on the waterfront, here they have the opportunity to now have their first entry-level position in the industry or start a pathway of entrepreneurship through media. And that's how, you know, we're doing it. Do I have all the solutions? No. But what I would love to be able to do is replicate this model so that there's an RBMG building, Canton Harbor, but then there's one back in my hometown of Philadelphia. Let's put RBMG Schuylkill. Let's put an RBMG Harlem. Let's put an RBMG, you know, Silicon Valley. Like, it could go wherever, right? So I want to be able to see this model replicate and plant us in the community, because for various reasons, many quite legitimate, for our safety primarily, as a people, we don't leave our community. It's not safe to leave our community. So if we're expecting the community to lead the community to go get the thing, that's not always the case. So we build the thing and put the thing in the community.
You know, Doc, we have to collaborate. And it sounds like what we did. I know for years I was over the journalism workshop that we did in Dallas with the local NABJ chapter. And when I came in, they were just doing a newspaper, but we were doing newspaper, radio, television. We had a PR component, and then we started doing digital. And the type of thing that we did, we actually went to, for example, an NAACP regional conference, and I took a bus up to Arkansas, and we got there on a Thursday afternoon. They went to a program with what's his name? Mace, not Maze, Mace, and there were other things going on, and I had them set up to do interviews and everything. When they got to breakfast the next morning, they had a newspaper there in everyone's plate. Last week, I was interviewed by a student, journalism student at University of North Texas, and she asked, how did I feel? Did I feel optimistic about um, being in business? And I can tell you, I don't know if it has been glorious for you, Doc, and for you, Doc, but as a Black woman, there just sometimes I say, we can't get no respect even from our own, even in the office. My at the Dallas Weekly, when I worked there, my team asked me, had I seen The Devil Wears Prada, and I said no.
And I'm referring to her a lot.
so they got the video and brought it to me in the office, and I watched it. And the next day they came and they said, "Did you see it?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Did you see anybody you look familiar to?" And I said, "Yes, I sure did." And they were like, "Really?" And they said, "Who'd you see?" I said, "I saw all of y'all." And because I do know that I'm about the business. I know when to play and how to play. But when that young girl asked me about how optimistic I was and what would I like to do if I had the money and everything, I talked about just what you're talking about. I talked about a new university where we are preparing our young people, because we tend to, someone comes on, okay, yes, I may be somewhere and asking some very serious, bona fide, journalistic, ethically sound questions. And then someone will come up and ask the person, "So what are you wearing?" And but if that's what they want to ask,
for women,
right? I
right?
just think we need to give them the foundation. They need to know what are ethics. They need to understand. We need to give them that information instead of shunning our people. We need to collaborate with them. I jokingly say, and my dean at FAMU needed to hear this because he's going through a battle with cancer now. But I jokingly say that he loved me. He only taught 2 classes, communication law and ethics. And I said he loved me so much, he made me take all of his classes twice. But and I actually did have to take them twice, but those are some of my favorite classes to teach now, because we have to give them the foundation. But you saw how creative we were. You see how creative we're continuing to be with all the videos of Kendrick Lamar. It just, that gives me something to laugh about when I see that. But when you see the creativity, and I said that we had to be like the drug dealers in our community, because when I was doing the journalism workshop, it was supposed to be for high school students. I saw that college students weren't getting what they needed in the classroom, so I started letting them in. And then I had a few mothers come with 6th graders. And I said, if a little 6th grader was out on the street and came up to a drug dealer saying, "I want to do what you do," the drug dealer isn't going to say, "Come back when you're a certain age." He or she is going to give that child something to do until they can do what they need to do for them. And we need to start younger. I love it. I think by the time, especially with everything that we have today, I think that young kids should be in school like at 2 and then get out at 16 with what they need, because gosh, high school is not what it was when I was there last century. Not at all.
Kevin, how do we pull in the next generation of writers? Running the newspaper, finding writers man, that's like pulling a wisdom tooth sometimes. And then the sense of privilege. I sent some people to the White House and they say, well, you're going to pay me $250. And I'm like, it took me 17 years to get here.
Well, let me. I mean, I'm sitting here, and we all have decided to take an hour out of our day to talk about Black media, and I'm going to refer back to we have an emergency, which made me think about the pandemic. Right, my son swallowed a bottle cap. We rushed him to the hospital, but it was the pandemic, so only one parent could come in. So I sat in front of the emergency side for like hours, right? And I just said, God, why am I sitting in front of this? And then I took the word emerge and I said, we must emerge. This is right now. We're in a Black media pandemic right now. And we have the most powerful connections in history. When I look back through history, it was always like a leader. Like right now, who is our Black leader? Like we said, hey, who's our Black leader? You know what I mean? Like, who is it? It's a lot of leaders, right? It's a lot of leaders on this, but so we don't have that right this second. But then we'll get on this and say, okay, on the 28th of February, what we doing? We're supposed to not spend some money with some people. Now, that same movement has to be people. We need to create a Black media. We have to take that same energy and and send that signal out all over the world, or over at least the US, to say Black people, we're together here, and here's where the media gets together. And until you get the young people involved too, you need to find their leaders, because they got some leaders. Now they might be influencers, they may be artists, they may be musicians, but they have people who they consider, and Kendrick is one of them. If Kendrick said to everybody, support the Black media, millions of numbers would happen right there. If Kendrick said, for this one generation, and some people were mad. I mean, we're not going to get into the whole message because he had so many messages at the Super Bowl, but he showed his Blackness to the world, whether they liked it or not. He might never be invited again. He doesn't have to be invited.
You don't have to be,
because he did whatever he was supposed to do. Now, what are we going to do at this point? First of all, we got to build the platform. So what if they fire Joy? Joy shouldn't be worried about being on their platform anyway. We need to be looking at our own platforms that we can have our voice. And, YouTube has made it for you can monetize it, but maybe if you can't on there, we still have to, I believe we have to build our own our media, and then you can pay the journalists. But if it's all about the money, the mission is going to die.
Yeah, it can't be all about the money.
Marc Clarke, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Let me jump in for a minute, Doni, on your question. So we employ many interns in the summer. We had 10 last year. So young people are writing. So you already know our whole editorial staff is young. Every single one of them is young. Our managing editor is young, but none of us, maybe you, Doni, but you just said no. None of us has the kind of staff to cover everything. So let me ask your listening audience this as well. When you have news or information or something that you think that we should be covering, don't just call us or email us and say, hey, can you cover? If you know what, we use our cell phones all the time. Take the picture. Take a good high-res picture. Take the picture. Take the photo. Let us know who took the picture so we don't go to jail, right? Make sure you have permission to share that picture with us and write up a little bit about it. So we have an army of reporters really in our communities. They're called our people. And they know more about what's happening than we know what's happening, right? And so instead of saying, man, I need to get this story on the front page of the whatever, fill in the blank. It's
whatever.
I need to get this story on Be More News. I need to get this story on Afro. I need to get this story. And let us know about it first. Don't tell me that it was someplace else and you wanted me to pick it up.
Yes.
That doesn't work. But we know what's happening in our community, and what Cheryl said earlier, politicians come to us when they are
In trouble.
in trouble, in quotes, not all the time. But how about breaking Black news in Black news?
But
Right?
and let me tell you, when your governor came to Dallas, he shouted out you to me.
Yeah, well,
He shouted out the Afro.
we were
And
the
made
only,
me feel proud.
we were the only media in the entire DMV that endorsed him in the primary. The only. We stepped out on a limb. We got it right. We're the only media in our major media in our market that even endorses political candidates. The rest of them scared to do it, right? But when we have a qualified Black candidate, we certainly going to say support that person. So my plea to the audience is for us, send it to editor@afro.com. Will we be able to follow up on everything you said? Maybe not, but at least we know it. Will you please be our eyes and ears in community and let us know? Not just call us and say, can you cover? We don't have 1,000 people on our team,
Right.
but we want to cover as much as we can of issues of substance and what's happening in our community. And we are trusted.
Doc, we definitely endorse Westmore. As a matter of fact, we predicted the last 4 governors, including 2 Republicans.
My apologies. You did, Donnie. I don't know about, did you do it in the primary? Or you did it? Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. You did, and kudos to you.
Well, I wrote a column. I starting young, even though I've been a journalist for over since last century. I wasn't endorsing in the paper because I saw what Black people were doing. Well, if you endorse somebody, they said, well, I'm not going to advertise with you. Well, guess what? I just wrote a column, and I'm trying to assemble my team so that we could endorse, because we're not going to endorse just because you throw a few dollars at us. And I wrote in my piece, I said, I stayed away from it because I wanted to be really solid with it financially, because I was counting on support when it comes for advertising and everything. I said, but y'all don't advertise with me anyway. You come to me talking about, I don't have any money to say, what's your budget? And you gonna come with $200. I'm like, you don't even need to be running. It's not that type of party anymore. But
we'll pay the white publications top dollar. I don't get that.
And even if they endorse someone else, and it's just like crazy, but it's a fight that I just will fight. I'd rather fight this fight. I'd rather ride this horse till all is said and done.
We got a new drum set, Downey. We got a new drum set for you.
Oh yeah.
What'd your dad say?
Beat it harder.
Right, and matter of fact, but if you're beating it in the wrong space, I don't care how good the sound is, nobody's hearing it. So even us right now, we're beating the drum right now, and hopefully somebody shares it, right, with somebody else. Oh, if you're watching right now, I hope you share this. Even if one more person knows about the Black media, that's good. Let's share this message. That's the only way. We're all doing amazing things in our one space, but with technology, that one message can become broadcast to many.
Right.
In one instance. So,
and you don't have to benefit from, I went to Birmingham and I met a Sora who was running for office, and I said, are you advertising the Birmingham Times? Birmingham Times didn't ask me to do that, and they didn't know I was going to do it or anything, but it'll come around to you if you're doing the right thing and doing it for the right reason. I feel you will reap the benefits of it. And if we, just like when I was in Dallas, I'd open the door for an elderly woman, praying someone was opening the door for my mother in New Jersey. So it didn't put a penny in my pocket to say support the Birmingham Times. It didn't take anything out of me either.
It don't cost you nothing, yeah. Doug, I want you to get this in. What's happening in Oakland politically? We only have a minute or so. You're muted.
Ooh, I really want to hear him too, because he looked like he's saying something.
In Oakland, we are really trying to usher in our queen of California, Barbara Lee. retired Congresswoman. The city of Oakland is suffering from 2 recalls: the recall of the first Hmong mayor and the recall of the first African-American Black woman as Alameda County District Attorney. And we have a $129 million deficit in the city of Oakland. And we have politicians who are running who have only one agenda, and that's the agenda to continue the down spiral of Oakland. So support us to support Barbara Lee. We need her, Barbara Lee, who fought in Congress for us. The only one who went against the war when Bush was trying to put it in. She was the only congressperson who said this is not going to be good for us. We need to get all the people who who knows people in Oakland, California, to support Barbara Lee as our next mayor to help clean up this fiasco that is just devastating the constituents and the business owners here in the city of Oakland, California. Thank you.
Okay, Marc Clarke, we want to make sure you get a word in before we shut it on down. Mr. Impeccable, Cheryl Smith, Dr. Vonnya, you are appreciated. Come on, Marc Clarke, hit the mute button.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Got a little connection issue. But powerful conversation. I had a chance to hear some. I saw Mrs. Draper on. I think at this point, we probably should do what you guys had mentioned, and Dr. Draper mentioned as media owners or media creators, content creators, and activists or people in the community. I think a platform like Doni, your platform, or the Afro, which of course is historic. Imagine how powerful it would be if she denounced the initiative that basically we become correspondents all across the country and sending content covering our stories, our neighborhoods, our cities, our states, whatever's going on. So now we have, as a matter of fact, if Black newspapers in general took on that assignment where established and or just in general content creators, news journalists in specific communities really just sent stories weekly, daily, bi-weekly to the different Black newspapers, and just making the network stronger, because I think everybody has a phone, everybody has a camera, everybody has a story to tell. And before it was you couldn't get on the platform. So now I think if we gave access to our platforms, that's probably going to be the easiest route to do what we're trying to do, because I think at the end of the day, there's so many different points of view also, even with our own communities, that instead of even limiting them, if we had a platform to share it with, I think that would be the move. Because getting the eyes is the biggest challenge. Like Doni, you've had amazing, like world-changing conversations on your platform for years. But sadly, the mainstream or a lot of Black folks don't know about it, don't realize when it's
They
on.
know. They copy our stuff.
Getting there. So
Kevin know, they mainstream copies our stuff all the time.
Oh, 1,000%. I can tell you my own personal experience. When my story went viral, it was Black press that was early on to cover me, Baltimore Times, the Afro. And then when the story went viral, it has been featured in over 50 media outlets and online publications. And I did not do 50 interviews. They gleaned from the real interviews that were done with Afro and Times, and scraped and took quotes and gleaned from my IG page to get images, and did this Frankenstein cut and paste and created this slew of content. So if you Google my name now, you see it across any and everything. So 1,000%, it was the Black press that actually conducted the interviews.
Any final thoughts, family?
Well, I call my parent company is called iMessenger, and I called them my messengers out in the community, because my shirts have a big I and big messenger, and if you walk up close to it, it says, I am the messenger. And we have to be the messengers for our community, and we have to share. And I don't have a problem when something is happening in your city. I go to the Black newspaper in that city and see what they have, how they are covering. Because I say I want things from a Black perspective, and that's what I'm looking for. You can get me at texasmetronews.com. I'm glad to be here with you anytime. You know, I said yes, and you wouldn't believe the marathon I've been on, but we have to make some sacrifice. The marathon I've been on is nothing compared to the sacrifice of the Ida B. Wells Barnett. You know, I look at it, and I just want to say there's one thing real quickly. I think we need to realize that America put a hit on the city of Selma, Alabama. And if you go there, you see it has, they did a color purple and said that you will never flourish because of how you embarrassed America, showing just how folks treat us, because that city has the horrible numbers in a number of ways. And when people go there every year to commemorate Bloody Sunday, they need to be all. You have businesses there that are so arrogant, they close down, even though they could be making a ton of money from the people there. And we need to understand, we need to shine a light on those cities. We need to visit those cities, and especially in Alabama, that did the fight when some of us weren't fighting.
I got a final thought. Great conversation, everybody. I'm glad everybody took the time out of their day just to jump in. I look back at the motto. As many of you know, I'm with Afro News and also manage Drew Hill, and I have had a chance to interact with everybody here on the platform. I mean, and when I look back at how BET started, they started with music videos, and because that connected with the kids, right? But then in between, they brought up the Ed Bradley, they brought up the news and the content to educate after they had them watching through the entertainment.
Ed Gordon, George Curry.
Right.
It's like castor oil. I don't know.
Right, because when they sold it, they took all of that off because they didn't want you empowering African Americans. They took anything that could get your mind stimulated. They took off the air. So I think for the new platform, and that's why the Instagrams and TikToks of the world, they latch on because of the entertainment. But if you can get them to latch on to our own platform, maybe it is entertainment in the beginning, and then you sprinkle in some things of content to that they become familiar with the platform, and then they understand, because they just don't know a lot of times how important Black media is until they get in trouble. It's just like they don't know about God until something happens to them. Then they're like, "Oh God, help!" You know what I mean? Now that something's happened, so maybe we, let's get out of our own personal businesses and create something for them. BET was our thing, right? What's our thing now? We don't have it. We don't have our thing. So it's up to us to create our thing. Absolutely. Attract the flies with sugar. And that's my final words.
Yes, I like all the comments coming. And we have to support one another, and we have to realize that if somebody, like in my city, and some people say we have too many Black-owned newspapers, and I remember interviewing Bishop T.D. Jakes, and I said, people were complaining about mega churches, and he said, Cheryl, there are plenty of souls out there that need saved. There's plenty, so there's room for more. And speaking on that, I say with the churches, I ramped up what I was doing during the pandemic. I feel the same way about a lot of things like I feel about the churches. Your doors were closed during the pandemic, one of the most horrific times in my lifetime. If you weren't there for me during that time, don't open your doors when things are going good or whatever. And we also have to understand, when I go somewhere, and I will ask people, some people say, what other newspapers should I advertise with? I tell them all the newspapers so that they could go, because whoever gave me some money, I guarantee you they didn't give me all the money they have. And so we have to realize that we can't take it with us. We can't take all of it. So we got to love up on one another.
Come on, Mark, get the final word and don't be quiet. You ain't wake up this morning. I know you was out there with them with the CIAA people last night. Come on.
Ah,
Unmute yourself. You done muted yourself.
You
Okay.
he's still muted.
No, I'm sorry. Donnie, you were saying something, but for some reason my reception's bad. I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say, Donnie?
Give us the final word.
I'm sorry, guys. I can't hear.
Okay. Vonnya, take us on home.
Oh Lord. No, I think Donnie, I thank you for because you and I were chatting last night when we put our heads together and said let's gather our people. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for answering the call and making yourselves available on this morning. Because again, we are the media and we are tapped into where we are as a people and in the moment, and the people were in a moment of crisis. And so we had an obligation to stand up, show up and speak to it. And so we did just that on this morning. And I'm grateful and I'm honored to connect with this group in a deeper capacity because it's, as you said, it's time to beat the drum even louder.
Well, make sure you connect with Cheryl Smith. She's in Texas. She runs Texas Metro News, also the Garland Journal. And Doug Blacksher does a show on Black USA live from Oakland. We appreciate you all. Good morning, world.